I am so thrilled, Odette. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be on this, what do we call it, live training, live call with you. And I'm super excited that you're Canadian. I love that.
Yeah. I am thrilled to have Odette Peek, everybody. You'll be joining us at the conference in May 1st to 3rd,
Okay.
2020. And I just wanted to have this opportunity for people to get to know you, learn a little bit more about who you are, and kind of what brings you to the work that this empowerment weekend is all about. So, without further ado, I would
Yeah.
love it if you could just share maybe a snippet of maybe the early Odette Peak and what
Yeah.
your life was like then.
Sure. Well, let's start back in 1993 when I started my first business. So I was 27 years old, and I had finished university, was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I literally got fired from almost every job, even the government jobs that you can't get fired from. And I'm like, okay, it's time that I
What did
go up
you do your degree in?
clinical psychology.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So was that the work you were pursuing with the government or?
Um, well, so when I finished my degree, I came back. So I did it in England, and I came back to Canada, and I ended up getting a job as an account manager for L'Oreal hair products, and did that for about a year and a half. And my dad said, "Look, you went to school for clinical psychology. Can you at least get a job in the field?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll try."
Yeah.
So I went and I started working for the government in back then it was called welfare. So what's it called now? Ontario Works. So I was an intake out worker. So I would literally go door to door for people that were applying for assistance, and I would fill out applications and things like that. So I was a community worker. It was really great, but it wasn't really directly related to the clinical psychology, or I didn't apply it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that lasted about a year and a half, and so which then I got me to this new place of, okay, what am I going to do with myself? And I actually got a job at Pure Later Courier and got fired again. And I'm like, I'm not kidding. It's like, okay, the universe is telling me I need to be an entrepreneur because I've always wanted to be one. And I had just gotten married. I was just in the process of getting married. And my husband at the time, who's now my ex-husband, was a custom home builder. And so you remember back in the early 90s, Canada was going through this really big recession. And I had this really great idea at the time. I'm going to do work for real estate agents, and I'm going to provide a service, and they're going to love it, and everything's going to be great. And people said to me, and a lot of your listeners might be able to relate to this, what do you know about building a business? You're too young. You've got no money. Who do you think you are? So I had everybody tell me that it was a stupid idea and I should just go get a job. And my husband, he said to me, you know what? If this is what you want to do, let's do it.
Oh,
He
good
ended up,
for him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was an entrepreneur. He got it. And despite the fact that he actually went bankrupt during that time because he was a home builder and the real estate
Oh my.
market was what was the hardest hit. But he still had faith in me, and he actually runs the company now. I've sold it to him since then, but grew that business to a multiple seven-figure business. And now it's international, and my kids have worked in the company, and it's been really a
Wow.
great thing.
Hmm.
Super excited.
Yeah.
And what was one of the ways that we grew that business was um, speaking to real estate offices. So I would go all around the GTA. I went through the yellow pages, looked for, had one-to-one conversations, and I became the speaker on the road for the business. And I had 5 minutes maybe with these real estate agents because real estate agents are super busy,
Yeah.
and was doing these little mini office presentations. And that's really how we grew the business with the one to many model. And I didn't realize it at the time because I was just so into it.
Right.
Uh, but that's what really expanded the business and got me really comfortable with the right language, being able to write proper proposals. But I became a speaker without even realizing I was a speaker.
Wow. Okay.
So
So this is your business. Now, there was a transition from that real estate kind of focus onward.
that's
Can
right.
a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I had the business, and my husband, ended up coming on board. We had two kids, and everything was great. But I felt like something was missing. And so I was about 35 at the time. I was like, I don't know, maybe it was I wanted to stay home with the kids, but I wanted to work. but the business was great, but it wasn't feeding sort of my soul purpose. But I didn't even know what soul purpose meant back then.
But from the outsiders looking in, you had it all, right? You had the
That's
business,
right.
you had the money, you had the family, you had the husband, you had everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's,
just something's missing.
and how often is that the case, right?
Yeah.
You think, wow, she's really rocking it out, but on the inside, there's like, there's nothing, it's not in alignment.
Yeah.
So we ended up going through a divorce, and I ended up selling my part of the business to my ex-husband, who now runs it, like I was saying. And I had this place of about 5 years of floundering. What am I going to do with my life? Now, sort of tip number one for people, if you're in that space or whatever, is I didn't hire a coach, a life coach, to actually talk it through with, okay, so chapter 1 is, done. Let's go to chapter 2. What do I really want to do?
Yeah.
So I did go back to school for social work, gerontology. I loved working with seniors, and I was going to start my own business. But I was floundering about 5 years. And I was single the whole time. Went back and got a couple of different jobs in social services, and really used my degree finally. And it was really great, but still that feeling of there was a tug. What am I meant to be doing? And when I was working for the government, I was working for the Peel Case Management, was an organization that was servicing families that had children with developmental disabilities. So I was a case manager, once again, out working with fields. My nickname was Erin Brockovich because I was an advocate.
Yeah, you know, I'm pretty good in that feel.
Yeah. Well, for families that have children with special needs.
Yeah.
So I was laid off because the program closed. And I remember that moment of hearing it. And I was like, yes, now I can start my business. Because I felt I needed to have permission from somewhere.
Yeah.
Or it had to be created for me, rather than me just saying, you know what, I'm going to start my own business and quit my job. Like, how scary is that, right?
Yeah.
And said, I'm going to be a coach. And I don't know if anyone knows the Landmark education process. Have you heard of that, Landmark?
No.
So Landmark is, people check it out if you don't know what it is, but it was really inspirational and instrumental for me taking my life and my business to that next level, because it has you in tune with what's really real out there. And, it gets you past your own BS that's going on inside of your head. And I took a program called the Self-Expression and Leadership Program. And it had me I was just going to do a 1-day seminar for women entrepreneurs on how to grow a business. And I thought, if I'm going to go through all of that, why don't I just build a business? Got nothing else to do. Let's just build a business. Right?
I think I'll build a business today.
I know, little, whatever, crazy of me. But I did. Now, once again, I didn't have a whole lot of support, because I was told, well, what do you know about coaching, and that and that, on and on. And I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to learn. So I hired a coach. Best thing I ever did was I hired a coach to learn how to build a business coaching, and opened up my doors it was about a year later. So yeah, I did that approach of build your website, do the social media, because I wasn't even on Facebook. Do all of those things, and then start working in your business, which hindsight now, I would have just hit the ground running and started getting clients right away and start making money to help pay for that.
Yeah.
And,
okay. So now you're a life coach. Is still something missing?
So I was I was a business / life coach. So I was like trying to coach everybody in every different way.
In business. So like they have some business goals, so like entrepreneurs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was my target audience. But my very first client I was career coaching. So she was in a job and trying to transition. So it wasn't really my target market, but it was such a great experience. So I opened up my business full time in July of 2010. And that's when everything, like, proverbial shit hit the fan, for everything started to crumble around me, because I thought I had it all organized. I had a partner I was in a blended family relationship. So it was like he would help with the bills, the house, the kids, and I could just focus on my business. It was like the ideal scenario. But 30 days after saying, hey, I'm full time, I got the conversation. If you've ever remembered those, if anyone's ever had that conversation of the we need to talk.
Oh no.
I'm like, here it comes. I saw it coming, but
didn't want to see it coming.
Yeah. And it was like the we need to talk conversation, and and the relationship ended. And I'm like, literally at this place of, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
what am I going to do with myself? I have to go find a house. I have to move. I have my kids. They were in grades 7 and 9 at the time.
Mm.
And had to come up with a strategy, but then had to really stay rooted into my dream and desire to be an entrepreneur, because the first thing you do is go, money, got to get a job.
A government job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just safe and practical.
Yes.
So I, let the dust settle after about 30 days. And the universe said, no, we're still going to give you a little bit more. And both of my parents, and I'll just ramp up the story, both of my parents in the span of a couple of months fell. They both broke a hip, and they both ended up in long-term care. And they lived in London, Ontario. So I had one on one end of the town and one on the other end of the town. And I lived in Caledon at the time, so a couple of hours away.
Yeah.
And it was just like, whoa, this vortex of my life is spiraling into something that I can't even handle it. Like, I felt like my future was gone. And unfortunately, both of my parents, they passed away within 2 months of each other, within 6 months of all of that happening. And I was so stressed out and so beyond my capable, even though I had support, I was still trying to run my business. I knew I had to move, that I woke up one morning feeling really sick, but I couldn't move. I literally woke up and I thought my arms had fallen asleep, but they weren't waking up, and I literally fell out of bed. And I'm like, what the heck's happening to me?
Like, your arms couldn't move. Like
I couldn't move. No.
So how did you even fall out of bed if you couldn't move?
Because I'm determined, right? As you can tell so far, right? Yeah. I'm like, so I wiggled my way out, and I thought, okay, because I tried to get them to wake up while I was in bed. Yeah. So I just maneuvered myself, swung my legs over the bed, and then I didn't have anything to hang on to. Yeah. And I just kind of, fell. And
it's so scary.
It was very scary. Yeah. And so this was during my parents, they hadn't yet passed away. But what had happened, just so people understand, is I had developed thoracic outlet syndrome, where the nerves in your neck are pinched. But I had them pinched on both sides, in the front and in the back. What happened then, I had this acute paralysis in my arms and my hands. So I wasn't able to move for about a year and a half. It took 18 months for me to regain.
Okay, so let's just recap. Okay, so
yeah.
what's the time span here? Because I think that this is what is so fascinating about your story, is that a lot of people feel like, everything always happens to me. Yeah. But I just want to, lots of people have these kind of experiences where everything that they've known kind of gets thrown up in the air. So your relationship ended, your parents were dying, and you had a physical challenge as well.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And then?
Well, they passed away. My dad in February, and my mom in April. And we had in June, on my sister's birthday, she wanted the service for my mom on her birthday. And so we had the funeral service on June 11th, which was a Saturday. Went to London, had the funeral service, and then on June 12th, the moving trucks came, and I moved out. So that was a hell of a weekend.
Are you in a wheelchair then? Because you wouldn't be able to walk.
No, I could walk. I just couldn't move my arms.
Oh, okay.
So, but when you can't move a body part, you use other body parts to account for, right? To help you out. Yeah. So, and then it was in a lot of pain. And then of course I started to lose a lot of weight, and I was just so distraught. Yeah. And moved out, and, had my kids, they were super young. And yeah, it was it was just the start of my new chapter. And I still had my business, because I still had clients. I don't even know how I got clients, I'll be honest with you. I was like, how the heck, and I would I would coach in the morning. So let's say I'd coach for an hour. Yeah. And then I'd have half hour in between. So I'd coach a client, and then I would just cry my eyes out to release the anguish. And then I'd coach again, because you'd have to be present. Yeah. Cry. And it was coach, cry, coach, cry. That was my day. And really started working on myself to regain the use of my arms, and then to regain the strength, so that I could really be strong and powerful.
Now, when you say work on yourself, are you talking just physically, or is this the start of when you started to go inward?
Well, my first landmark program was in 2008. So I started doing the inner work, but I'll say it was the inner work at a more of a superficial level. Like I wasn't going deep spiritual.
Totally get that. Yeah. Did that too.
Yeah. And you're just like, okay, but the change was happening. The
Yeah.
metamorphosis was happening. And so that first year of business, I was working a lot on my physical self because I had to get stronger because I'd lost a ton of weight. And so working physically as well as the mental and emotional. So I ended up registering for a coaching program that was in the States. And it was really amazing because not only did it teach me how to grow a coaching business,
Mhm.
you know, to a certain level, like all the things that you need to do, right? The
Yeah.
video, the social media, all of it. But it also gave me a sense of community and support,
Mm.
as opposed to your girlfriend's coming over with a glass of wine and, you know, feeling sorry for me and then having me feed into my own pity party. I had this community of people who were helping me rock it out.
Oh,
And, you know, that in itself was, I was thinking about that this morning, how, you know, you look back and you go, what really changed my life was that sense of community for a whole bunch of years.
yeah.
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 So,
Okay, so now you're a coach and you're coaching clients, working on yourself. Now there's somewhere in here, there's this shift when you start
mhm.
diving into soul stories and speaking.
Yeah.
So could you share a little bit about that?
Yep. Absolutely. So when I started business coaching, there was about a period of about 3 years where I didn't share my story at all. How could I can't tell people how vulnerable I am. I can't tell people how scared I was. I can't tell people what happened to me because why would they hire me? They need someone who's strong and who's got her shit together, right? That's what they're looking
Yeah.
for, not
Yeah.
realizing that they're looking for authenticity and vulnerability and realness and humanness.
So
Because
what you're saying is that you're coaching people to work on themselves and to work on their stories, but you're not sharing yours.
right. Well, I hadn't yet got to that part in my coaching. I was really just coaching people on marketing strategy,
Right.
mindset for sure, but it was
Right.
more around marketing.
Oh, okay.
And I was just too afraid to go to that level. I didn't even know it really existed. And I remember one day sitting on my couch, like flopping on my couch in pure exasperation. It was about 3 years later going, I felt so disconnected
Mm.
from my inside. And remember, this is me not knowing anything that there was an inside. That I was like, I, I call it now my spiritual breakdown.
Mm.
That my spirit was broken, everything had broken down, and I'm like, I need some serious spiritual help. And I was like, the words came out of my mouth, and I'm like, that's
How
really
did you
weird.
even know it was spiritual? Like, because I know that you often say that you weren't really in touch with the word spiritual or spirituality.
I think because I kept running away from going deeper within myself.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people do this, is that when we use busy work
Mm-hmm.
to avoid feeling.
Yeah.
And I had done that for so many years because quite frankly, the pain of what I had experienced. And there's more to the story as well with my
Yeah.
dad, who
There
was
always is.
yeah, he was an alcoholic. And
Yeah.
so I tried to be super busy so I wouldn't have to think and I wouldn't have to feel.
Yeah.
And whatever had me realize that, I think I met a story coach who kept putting little seeds in my head. You've got a story, you've got to share it. And I think I just thought at one point, can't really remember exactly, but I remember thinking, I don't feel on the inside anymore. I feel like an empty shell.
Mm-hmm.
And sitting down, I remember just crying, going, there's more to me than meets the eye. There's more to me than just all of this. And I was building my business from fear, from anxiety, from worry, and not fulfilling myself, not feeding any other part of me. And it just came to this realization that I've got to work on the inside. So I ended up hiring a very, very expensive mindset coach
Mm-hmm.
who got me on track and had me take a look at my story, my pain. And I know Lori Appleby's on going to be at the Unleash Your Greatness.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So she was my assistant, and I had purchased this book called Radical Forgiveness. She's now a radical forgiveness coach. And there's a story in that of itself. But I read the book, I couldn't put the book down, and I realized I needed to do some forgiveness for people and for myself. And that's really when the spiritual reconstruction started. And I started to go much more deeply inward as a full person, not just as sort of the shell of a person.
So I'm
Yeah,
curious, looking
yeah.
back now,
Mm-hmm.
would you consider that all those things happened exactly in that moment, all at the same time, so that you couldn't go back to your old way? Like it was almost
100%.
like, yeah, isn't it,
Yeah.
in the moment we're like, really,
Yeah.
how am I going to get through this? But yet it's absolutely what's necessary for you to get through
Mhm.
it, in order to be open to
Mhm.
something new.
Well, you're not listening, or I wasn't listening,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it could have been um, one of the reasons why I went into that relationship in the first place, although, loved the experience and everything, was out of fear. It's a fear of being alone, fear of money, fear of just a lot of different things. And, a lot of women, they, dare I say, they do that. They go into relationships or things for the wrong reason. Men too, but
Yeah.
I'm just really focusing. Women are
Fill
a little
ourselves up.
different.
Yeah.
And so I was kidding myself, basically. And the universe just said, no, you're way stronger. So we're going to just keep hitting you over the head until you wake up. And it still hasn't stopped. Okay. So
Yeah.
that goes
Yeah.
right. It's like, I just got a huge wake up call yesterday, which was, I was like, wow, I didn't realize.
I don't know if you found, but I know for myself on my journey, when I was challenged, I always had, it was almost like I needed the full on, as challenging as it could be, because I would revert back to my old behaviors. Like
Yeah.
if there was an easier way, I would take it.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to see, looking back, that, it really, things totally had to, like, I couldn't be allowed to go back in order to move forward. And I really
Yeah.
feel like the universe kind of
Mm-hmm.
presented that opportunity for me.
Yeah.
So when you talk about people are the story coach,
Mm-hmm.
or the story workshop
Soul
you
story.
went
Yeah.
to, it was speaking to you. So how did that come to fruition for you moving forward in that arena?
Well, I remember doing a webinar, and I had my story coach me for about an hour before the webinar, a couple of hours actually. And I shared my story for the first time. And it's kind of funny. And so did my thing, made my offer. And the next day I go into my bank account, and I look and I see this money in my account that I didn't know where it came from. So I phoned my assistant and I said, where'd this money come from? Because something's wrong. It's not my
Yeah,
money. And I
yeah.
kind of freaked out. She said, no, people bought the webinar on the webinar. And I ended up talking to a few of the people that registered for it. And I said, why did you register and hire me and all that stuff? And they said, because of your story. And that's when things started to sink in.
Yeah.
And I realized that in order to grow your business, your number one marketing tool is your story.
Mm-hmm.
It's in everything that you do. It's in your marketing. It's in your Facebook Lives. It's in your summits. And it's in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so started to really go into deeper space about how to help entrepreneurs create impact in this world is by sharing your story. And by speaking, whether it's live or online or whatever, as opposed to, hey, write your book.
Right.
It's, to me, get out there and start speaking, because it heals you. When you share your story with other people, it does two things. It heals you, because you're not reliving over and over again a trauma or a drama. It's healing you. And especially in the format that I teach my clients. And then it's inspiring other people to make a difference in their life and in their lives of their clients. And that's the ripple effect of impact. And storytelling's been around for, thousands of years.
People said, yeah, I share my story
Yeah.
to my friends, and and it's,
Mm-hmm.
I still feel the same. So what are you doing differently?
So one of the processes that I have is called Going Through the Ages, where I have people literally go through their life year by year, and without judgment, so that they write down the experience. Because here's the thing, you have your experience of something that happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
Then what we do as human beings, because we're complex, we attach a meaning and an emotion to that experience.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is, as we get older, we get more and more experiences. We have more and more judgments about them, and we attach more emotions and feelings, but it compounds. It's like a snowball. So you've got a snowball and you pack snow on it. So you're packing more crap onto the experience that happened maybe 20 or 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that has nothing, it's not even remotely close to what the experience actually was. So when we attach a meaning to it, it then creates what I call an emotional theme that runs through your life. So for most people, it's, I'm not good enough. Who do I think I am? I'm not worthy. I can't be seen, not heard, those kinds of things.
Right.
And that's the driver for what makes us who we are today. So mine was, I'm not good enough, and I'm really just not worthy. And 50 years later, I can see that emotional theme popping up. Like I was saying yesterday, I did this assessment. It was an energy assessment. It was really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about victimhood. Like a lot of people stay in victimhood and they blame and, it's not my fault. And I realized that I still have some of that happening for me, is that when I get stressed out, I can immediately go into victim poor me mode.
Yep.
And I was a little bit shocked. I'm like, I thought I cleared all that up. So it's the theme that runs through my life. And it's the thing that we need to be cleaning up on a regular basis. And we need to heal it. And so when you do that process of really seeing your life year by year, you see the good that's happened in your life, and you see the learning that's happened in the experience. And that's what what it's about.
If you help people write their story,
Yep.
and then you're making connections though on a regular basis now. You're not rewriting your story every day. So what was it that you learned within yourself from the process of writing that story and then now?
So I wrote a talk.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't just write the story. I wrote a talk, and in the talk has story. And what I love to do with people is give them a basket full of stories that at any given time, they can just pull out a story if it doesn't fit and add another one. And the stories don't have to be the deep trauma. They can be what happened to you when you walked across the street,
Right.
3 days ago.
Yeah.
But it's, what message do you want the audience, or do you want the audience of the world to know? And what is the learning that you got from your stories that you want to share with the world? So that's what's really important, because then that becomes a lot of your marketing messaging. Is here, I'm going to teach you these 3 things based on the pain and the challenge that I experienced. And here's the solution.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Here's how I overcame, because if I can do it, so can you.
So in your case, the worthiness, how were you able to start tapping into your worthiness?
By getting really comfortable with my story, because I never shared my story. And then now it's black and white. And now I have to share it with the world. Okay. So it's scary. Mm-hmm. So just writing it was very therapeutic. Right. And I had many tears, many, choked up moments, many like, oh my God, like I can't share that with people. Yeah. That's when it's the right story. But it's how you say it. Like a lot of people think that they need to tell all of the details of their trauma or their drama, but you don't. You only need to tell the essence or the nuances of it and how it made you feel. And it's okay to be a little bit choked up when you are telling your story. You don't want to be blubbering, but you need to be emotionally connected. Yeah. Right? So yeah. I was very much emotionally connected to who I was, and my experiences were part of who I am. So that's what started to heal the process for me. Mm-hmm. And then when you're out there speaking, and I just like to help people write one talk, that you get known for that talk and you get comfortable telling the story.
Right.
And then you can, then it becomes, you just embody it. Mm-hmm. From a place of power, not from a place of poor me or victim or whatever, or that happened to me.
So my understanding is that you were working with entrepreneurs to share the story as part of a marketing plan, but are you now shifting a little bit away from that? Yeah.
So yes. The last couple of years, I've been really focusing on helping people uncover their soul story, helping them become speakers, and all of that. And there was still this piece missing for me. I was like, I had the stake in the ground. To me, it was like, am I a storyteller coach or whatever you want to call it, or am I a speaking coach? And I really fluctuated with that. And my heart would always be pulled to soul storytelling, but the practical was get on stage and speak and sell and all of that kind of stuff. And so in 2018, I get confused now with the years, I had a great year. It was amazing. I did an amazing event in Tampa and getting people up on stage and practicing speaking. And it was wonderful. But when I accomplished that goal, had spent the year working with the people that purchased the Ovation program, there was a part that I was like, I still want to go deeper with people. Mm. And so last year was a real transformational year where it was about June. I thought, I'm doing it. I'm loving it, but there's still something missing. And I'm like, I'm seriously, I'm like, oh my God, not another something is missing. Yeah. I can't keep doing this.
Yes. Yeah.
And went to a retreat in Costa Rica. I had one of my clients just said, hey, I'm going to Costa Rica. And she says it's an ayahuasca retreat. I'm like, what? It took me about 4 months to learn how to say it. I went, I didn't research it, didn't know what it was. It's plant-based medicine. And went to this retreat, and my life absolutely transformed. I just felt I knew exactly what my life purpose was. I knew the direction I wanted to take it. It was still scary to make those changes, but I was so in tune with what I really wanted to be doing. And that was going deeper with people on helping them uncover what that something is missing for them, and still getting them to know themselves by uncovering their soul story, and really focusing on for entrepreneurs, because as an entrepreneur, you need to be in alignment. And I'm sure that there's many more that are out of alignment, but you do the thing that you feel you should do, you have to do, they tell you to do, and you're
Like
maybe not.
the job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not, well, sorry.
I was just
They're
gonna
not,
say, yeah, go ahead.
well, they're not making the impact that they want, or the income, or working with the client that they really want to be working with. And they feel it's like trying to fit a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. And you can't do that. It doesn't work. The puzzle will not be complete. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm really working on now. Still working on story, because I think it is both healing for the person and inspirational for the world, because they need to hear you, all of you, what you have to offer, and use it still as a platform to grow your business, but do it in a place of alignment, not in a place of misalignment.
It sounds actually that how you're working with people with respect to their soul stories is actually helping them be in alignment.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because the first step in alignment is knowing who you are. Mm-hmm. And you need to know who you are from the place of everything, mm-hmm. from what you did 5 years ago, 20 years ago, what someone said to you when you were 5 years old. You need to know it. And then it's an automatic healing. It really is, if you allow it to be. And then you can go, wow, this is why I'm doing this thing. And it's not really what I'm meant to be doing.
So maybe, when did you recognize that you could be in alignment versus not in alignment? Like, when did that come in?
In June, when I went to the retreat.
Oh, okay.
It was, see, what plant-based medicine does, it bypasses your head and it goes straight to the heart and the soul. Now, there's different types of plant-based medicine. For me, because I'm so stubborn, and because my mind really is very strong in that I can talk myself into anything, my mind was getting in the way, because I was doing EFT, yoga, meditation, all types of different modalities, which was really helpful. But the universe said, well, whatever, it just provided this opportunity, and I didn't even bother checking it out, because it might not have gone.
I might not have let you go.
Yeah. But at the end of that week, I felt like there was a void in my soul, but a good void, where it just took out all the junk and the crap and the fears and the anxiety, threw it away. And I was left with this open space of beauty and vulnerability. And it was, I got to admit, the physical sensation was like, I was like trying to catch my breath. I'm like, there's something missing here, but it was a good missing. Yeah. And then that's when I decided to go down a deeper path. I want to do retreats. I've been to Costa Rica 3 more times since then. Yeah. And I'm planning a Costa Rica retreat in July, and restructuring or pivoting in my business to work with those entrepreneurs who feel that something is missing piece, that misalignment piece, but still helping them build their business with a sense of alignment. Because if I can build a business being misaligned, it's like, what can you do when you're in alignment?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Just speaking with you again, I absolutely can't. I'm just so excited about this conference, because it's all about alignment. It's all about connecting the mind and the emotions, where they originated, and how to transform them, so that people can start either building a business, or start, experiencing their family in alignment, or just spending time alone and being in alignment with that. So I can't thank you enough for sharing all this today. But before we leave, I just wanted to touch on a few things. Like, you are quite an accomplished woman. I believe you've graced the TEDx stage. You've traveled. I know North America, but you also have traveled outside of North America as well to speak. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely. And when I was 17, I decided I wanted something a little bit, I was probably more in alignment when I was 17 than when I was, 50. And I went to Europe on a whim, and I ended up living there for 5 years and going to university there. Like, as a as a, not as a foreign student where you pay triple the amount, but as a ECE Dutch passport student. And it was really great. And I often remember those, how I was back then, and felt so free and alive doing what I really wanted to be doing. And then whatever happened, happened. So yeah, so it's nice to go back to that space.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's so insightful, because a lot of times to even work with people with regards to alignment, one of the questions I would ask is, has there ever been a time when you felt a great sense of gratitude or joy, and getting people to kind of tap into an experience they've had in the past? So it sounds like yours would have been when you were 17.
Yeah, it was, I've had a lot of those really big moments of extreme gratitude. In 2018, when I did my Tampa event, so it was an international retreat. So there is a difference when you're doing an event that's across the border. And I had gotten my US working visa. So I was able to work and live in
Oh,
the
that's a big
States.
deal. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was really great. And when I went through that process to apply for that visa, I applied for an extraordinary ability visa. It was the easiest one for me, as opposed to having to do investments and all that.
Right.
You have to go through, once again, I had to go through my entire life of my accomplishments that would make me, quote unquote, extraordinary.
Right.
And as I was going through that process, and looking at all of the things that I've accomplished and not accomplished, and let's call them the everything of my life, I thought, I have accomplished way more than I have ever allowed myself to remember, realize, believe. And it's in the little things. It doesn't have to be the great big explosions of accomplishments that you have to be grateful for. It's in the little things. And it's like this document's like 100 pages. 100 pages of me being, quote unquote, extraordinary. And it was such a beautiful experience. I think everyone should do it.
Yeah, it sounds like a good exercise.
It really is. It's like what do they call that? It's not I don't know, the
Skills and talent inventory kind of thing.
Yeah, when you put it into a scrapbook thing.
Yeah.
Scrapbook your life. And it was all those little things that I completely forgot, because I kind of thought, nah, it's not worth it. That I was in such joy and gratitude for my team who helped me put it together, for myself. And then when I ended up putting that event together, I cried my eyes out on the third day, because it was in December. I had this feeling of, we did it. We moved mountains to make this experience for these people and my team and everybody, and how we showed up. It took a lot of work, not only externally, but internally. I did a lot of work every day with my EFT coach, because it's, who are you being in this world is what's more important than what you're doing. And I'm forever grateful for that.
Now, did you work with Joe Dispenza?
I did.
Is that the conference you're talking about?
No, well, so I did go to a Joe Dispenza week-long advanced retreat in February in the States. No, it was my own event in Florida. It was called Speak Up Live.
Oh, okay.
And it was for people who wanted to be speakers. So we worked on skills training on stage and writing their 2-minute thing. They all walked away with videos and headshots. And so it was a 3-day event for me. And you know what it's like to put on a 3-day event. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And because I was doing something different,
a little bit scarier.
It's a little scary, and it's in US dollars, so all of my fees are in US, but it just adds a different dynamic. And it was really, can I do this? And it took a lot of support for me to be able to show up.
Yes, you can.
Exactly. So it was great.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Odette. I can't wait to work with you in person in May. And I just want to thank you for sharing all of you today. It just is such a beautiful story. And I love being a part of watching you unfold. And I can't imagine even more that's going to be coming as a result of all the things that you've moved through. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And thank you for noticing. And just to be totally transparent, remember when we first spoke about your event, and you could feel me being out of alignment. And remember we talked a little bit about this, right?
I didn't know if I wanted to say anything, right? Because, sometimes as a coach, you just pick up on things because
Yeah.
about right. So I knew you were holding back, and
Yeah.
I wanted to push the button and have you speak. I mean, everything on paper said yes, have her come, but it was like no, she's holding back, and it
Yeah.
really was a Facebook post in
Yeah.
November. Was it November?
No,
You,
it was a couple of, well, no, I think it was just, well, I've done a whole bunch of Facebook posts, but I think it was just the last couple of weeks or whatever, last month or so,
yeah.
where
Anyway.
I just, yeah. And you're like, no, you're in alignment. And so people can feel when you're out of alignment. Your clients, your prospects, your family can feel when you're out of alignment. So
Oh
you
yeah,
can't fake it, right?
I got chills on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Yeah.
true. And one thing I'm gonna walk away with that you emphasized is that we can be successful doing
Mm,
what we're doing out of alignment. But can you
yeah.
imagine what's possible? And not even from a business and this is how much money I make,
Yeah.
but just from a standard of being, a standard of living day in
Hmm.
and day out, regardless of what it is
Yeah.
that you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the process of going through the ages had me remember something that my dad said to me. And he was an entrepreneur from Holland. They have money. Immigrants have and he lived in the war. A different sense of what money means, right? And I remember him saying to me in a state of like frustration and anger because I didn't care. I never cared about money. And he looked at me, and goes, because I think I got fired from a job. And this is when I was a kid, right? Like about
Yeah.
17. He goes, Odette, it's all about the money. Everything is all about the money. And I deep seated that somewhere.
Mm.
And that would come up and rear its ugly head. And that's what's been one of my drivers in life. And I've cleaned that up. I've forgiven that. I've gone through that process that it's not all about the money.
Mhm.
For me, you go after the money, you think everything else is going to be beautiful. Like money buys the happiness, right? And it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I had to really learn and clean up for myself. That would I still be doing this if I didn't get paid? And
Yeah.
that's, yeah. So anyways, I just want to thank you very much for you putting such a great event on for us here locally, because Unleash Your Greatness it's a fabulous event. And I've heard nothing but amazing things about you. So can't wait
Oh,
to meet
well,
you in
thank
person.
you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just so excited. I just feel like the people that are coming together, I've created new activities this year so that a lot of people that were there last year are coming back this year. So I wanted to make sure that it was unique and just as insightful.
Good.
And I think that you're going to help bring that for it to be that way, because you really do bring an interesting piece that wasn't there last year. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
We'll see you in May.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.